So one of the areas where people get a lot of pain is in the groins. And the other video clip I've just shown you, the supta virasana, which is the reclining hero pose, but there's an easy version to work the front groins. If these muscles get very tight in here, you'll have a lot of pain. It will go down perhaps into the thigh. Now the stretch, the classical stretch, the adductor stretch, well, it's sometimes called the butterfly, and I'll show you. So height is good. These are yoga bricks. Now, butterfly is the wrong word because you never bounce a stretch, so that's called bouncing. Ballistic stretches, bouncing, are dangerous because they can damage or shorten the tendon, and that's a way to get a groin strain. So of course we don't bounce, but you can see why it's called the butterfly, because what I'm doing is pulling my heels as close into the groin as possible, and I'm just gently pushing down with my elbows against the inner thigh. Now the thing to watch for in the butterfly, we do not want to be hunching. This is the wrong way to do it, all this hunching. It's better to be up straight, like this, straight. Now, that's the way to, so straight. Now I could use a strap or a small towel and pull the feet here, but once I pull my lumbar and my abdomen, my trunk forward, now I'm in the adductors. Now I'm in the hip flexors, the psoas, iliopsoas, and adductors. And the groins are gently opening, gently. There's no need to go at it too hard, to be aggressive or fierce. That's not what you do to a stretch. A stretch is to wait patiently, a virtue. Count to 10 if you have to, 10 seconds, and wait for the release. Try to feel the release happening, and you cannot force it. Of course, you will get some groin opening with an easy cross-leg posture. So an easy cross-leg would be something like this, with the leg cross in the front of the shin. And the way to work this way is again coming forward. So we don't want to hunch forward. And if you see me from the side view, if you come over here, I'm trying to show people not to hunch forward. Come and do a side-on view. So the side-on view is, there's no point in collapsing the spine forward. So what I want to do is nice and straight, use the core, bring the shoulder blades back and down the back, and I'm upright. And now I'm also in my groins. I'm coming forward in the easy cross leg. Of course, there's some compression through there, so that may not work for you. If you do an easy cross leg, notice that you'll probably have a favorite side. One side will feel natural, the other side will feel awkward. But as always, do at least as much on your awkward side. Reverse, do both sides the same. Otherwise you'll maintain any marginal or pelvic torsion or asymmetry will be maintained if you don't work on both psoas and both adductors equally. So we're into equality, symmetry, balance. So this is how to do an easy cross leg. Anyway, from this side on camera view, I'm showing you the sitting groin stretch. And that's quite strong in the front groins, but you'll certainly feel it. Now, for those of you who've never done any stretching and your front groins are very painful, and you're seeing an osteopath, seeing me or somebody else, of course, this is a long-term plan, and there's no shame in using more height. So here's a height, a little bit about the same as a chair, and that might be what you need to do for some people. That's enough. That's a groin stretch. That's fine. Now the other way to do this, there's many ways of working on a groin stretch, and there's the reclining, the reclining stretch pose, and that would be something like this. We'll use a bolster. I'll use some support for the head. Nice color combination. You can see what I'm doing. Now I could use a strap and strap the groins, but the other way to do it is to sort of get close enough to a wall that does the work of the strap for me. So some support for the head is sort of there, and where this needs to be is I'm actually just off the bolster, so my sacrum is just off the bolster, and here I am. I'm in the same groin stretch. You could put a pillow, a blanket here to support, if that is what you need to do. So there we are. And the advantage of a reclining pose, a supine position, this is restorative. This is restorative yoga. You can just relax into it. Wonderful. What could be easier? I'll show you that bolster setup again. So of course, bolsters are kind of nice, but if you didn't have a bolster, yes, you could probably use a gym roller. I like to have some support for my head and neck. This bolster is probably a little bit short for tall people. You can get longer ones. Rollers are longer. I'm in two schools of thought about a roller. I'll show you the roller. Just camera can stay there. So what I mean by roller is these things, and you'll see them in every gym. Although personally they're not my favorite, because that doesn't squash at this end very much. You tend to roll off, so you can't use a lot of muscle. You can't really relax the muscles if you kind of have to stop from rolling off a roller. But I know you can say, well, I've got one at home, can I use it? Maybe. I'll put the roller away, but don't go out and buy a roller. Go and buy some yoga equipment. Go and buy a bolster. Now, if you are going to use equipment, then this is one kind of yoga belt, and this has a buckle here. The way to do the supta baddha konasana, which means reclining bound pose, would be to put the belt, I know this is black on black, but on the coccyx, the tailbone, or just below the sacrum. We don't want it up in the lumbar because that's going to overextend the lumbar, increase the lumbar lordosis. We want to pull the sacrum that way, and I'll show you. So if I was going to go down into this bound pose again, yes, I could put my heels on the skirting and I wouldn't slide back on this carpet, and that would do the same thing. But here I could reverse it and have my feet to the center of the room and my head to the wall. But what's critical is where this belt goes. If you can see, black on black. Now I've also got to get my bum on the floor slightly off the end of the bolster. Can you see blue on black where that bolster is? And this is where a roller wouldn't really work too well, because it wouldn't give you that cushioning and it wouldn't flatten. The beauty of this belt now is I can tighten it, and I can pull the heels right into the groin, and I can tighten the belt. There we go. And that's a more bound pose than just using the wall. There are versions of using two belts, but I think we'll just stay with one belt for the moment. And this is the reclining supta baddha konasana pose. And that's rather wonderful for me as a chest opener, because I'm also getting this opening through the sternum, opening through the ribs. I could theorize in Chinese medicine the kidney channel would be the yin channels, spleen, liver, kidney, are the inner leg. The kidney channel would be coming up the inner groin to the midline. The spleen channel would be fairly similar, coming up the inner legs, up the front abdomen. And I could theorize that that kidney Xiao Yin is the same axis as heart Xiao Yin, and spleen is the same, Tai Yin is the same axis as lungs. So what I'm really saying here is the upper body to the lower body, is the kidney to the heart, the spleen to the lung. It would be the liver to the pericardium. So I'm getting this chest opening here. That's the chest opening, and it's a wonderful chest opener. You may not need any support for the head, but I don't want my head hinging back. That might be a bit too much support. So that might work for me. So my head, I don't want that. I don't want the chin coming forward. I want to work like this. It is a bit tricky to relax the neck and keep the chin down, but with practice you can accomplish that. And there's my supta, baddha, konasana. Apologies for mispronouncing. And it's just so nice to relax into it. You could have supports here. What we'll do on the end of this video, obviously the clip straps are easier to get out of. In a bound strap like this, it's a little more tricky. So, but you could use any kind of belt. But all this equipment is there for a reason. I'm of the persuasion there is no shame in using as much equipment as is necessary. Of course, at an advanced level, you can move away from equipment, but stiff people like me are never going to be flexible. And I always need to rely on some equipment, and I'm making this video clip for beginners, not yoga adepts. And I'm going to show you the reclining hero pose, the supta virasana. That bolster is a bit too short, so my head's going to flop back on that. I think I have a longer one in there, but if you do have a short bolster, you can use that. And of course you get yoga bricks. If you do get yoga bricks, always best to have a set. But the reclining hero pose is something like this. The sit bones are supported on the brick, like that. You don't sit on your heels, you sit between your feet. It's quite a strong stretch to the fronts of the ankles. That's the reclining hero pose. I'm sitting on a brick this way, but I could also sit on it this way. And yes, maybe you don't need a brick, but what you don't want is your bum hanging and sitting in the air. It has to be sitting on something. And here is the way to strap the knees together, like this. So I use my strap because we don't want the knees splaying apart, we want them together. I want to have my feet, I want to try to get the shin in exact symmetry. I don't want one foot further out. Most of us will not be symmetrical, and that's the reclining hero pose, where there's a lot of opening to the front groins. Yes, there are arm variations like this. With the wall behind me, I won't get back very far, but there would be the variation. What I'm trying to show you here is the opening in the front groins. You don't really want any pressure in your lower back. That's where the tail has to come down, and that's a core exercise because that's your core work. Rolling the tailbone that way and the pubis this way. Containing the lower ribs is the other instruction. Wonderful opener. I could go back further, but I'm showing you this again because err on the side of caution, have too much height, too much support if you're new. And of course you need a proper teacher, ideally a class, someone to keep you safe, to stop you having injury. But if you follow the instructions carefully, stop if it hurts, you will not have injury. And there you go. They're two groin openers. We're working with the psoas. The other groin openers, of course, being the lunges, the ones that you guys all know, the lunges, but the same principle. Roll the tail down, pubis up, and immediately it throws it into the back quad, or the back hip flexor, the back groin. That's the way to do a lunge. Tail down, nice and long. Keep the pelvis straight, as if they're the headlights on a car. Keep rolling the tail down. Forward lunge, back one. Of course, do both sides, even out. So one of these will work for you. And it's all about opening these groins, which are the default core muscle for people who don't use core. I have to train my core. Enjoy, stay safe, experiment, stop if it hurts. Well done.